What's going on, everybody? EJustB here. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the iPhone 13 Pro and if that phone is still worth it in 2023, or if you should go with any other option like the brand new OnePlus 11 or the iPhone 14 Pro. And also, if you're watching this video, I'm going to be doing a giveaway to one lucky subscriber. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and comment down below your thoughts on the iPhone 13 Pro. Let's get into it. I can't really make this video and talk about if it's still worth it if I don't really focus a little bit on the price. The best part about a new iPhone coming out is the fact that the older generation goes down in price. Of course, that's the case for the iPhone 13 Pro. While Apple does not sell the iPhone 13 Pro officially through their store, you can actually buy it third party and get a good deal on eBay or the Facebook Marketplace. I looked and I saw it for down to around $650 US, which is actually a solid price with what you get, because that gives you an almost $400 of savings compared to the iPhone 14 Pro coming in at $999. It's actually a little bit cheaper than the base model iPhone 14, and it gives you a lot more features than that device. In terms of price, it is a really great value, especially if you could get it on the used market. Now, I am personally someone that doesn't mind buying a phone secondhand, but I did have a little bit of a scare last year, so I figured I'd give you a little bit of a warning before you go out and buy a used phone. One of the things that you want to make sure to look out for when you're buying a used 13 Pro is to make sure that the phone is not blacklisted, because literally last year I bought an iPhone 13 mini from an actual phone store with really good reviews, and then when I got home after a couple days, I noticed that my phone was blacklisted and that I could not continue to use my SIM in that phone. So I went back to the store, got a refund, and it was good. But that might not happen to you if you're buying it on eBay, Kijiji. You might risk buying a blacklisted phone. So make sure to check that it's not blacklisted first. You also want to make sure that it's not iCloud locked, because that can mess you up in the future. You won't be able to add your iCloud to the phone or even really use the phone in general if it is iCloud locked. And lastly, the thing that you do want to look out for is to make sure that the battery health is a decent number. I'd say anything above 90% is a good battery percent, and that means that if you were to buy a phone with anything lower than that, you're going to be constantly needing to charge your iPhone. It won't last you throughout the day, and you might need to replace the battery way sooner than you'd like. Buyers beware. But with all that said, I would still buy a used iPhone 13 Pro just because the value that it gets, everything that you get in that phone is actually pretty solid, and for around $649, you can't really go wrong. What do you get on the iPhone 13 Pro? Well, the iPhone 13 Pro has an awesome Retina XDR display coming in at 6.1 inches with a peak brightness of up to 1200 nits. Using the phone outdoors has been great, and you can watch content without having to squint too much. The display also has a pretty good 120 Hz, which is not found on the regular base model iPhone 14. It allows you to navigate a lot smoother and interact with the phone without feeling like the phone is slow. Now, I should say though, and quite honestly, after using this for about a year, you really don't notice it day to day until you start using a phone that doesn't have 120 Hz. Then you're like, wow, I do like this feature. Speaking of speed though, after 1 year, the A15 chip in the iPhone 13 Pro is still pretty damn fast. Using apps on the phone, scrolling through Instagram, social media, playing games, all those things just run very, very smooth on the iPhone 13 Pro, and I've definitely not noticed any lag or stutter or any issues with the iPhone 13 Pro at all. Also, if you wanted to, I don't know who would, but you can actually edit 4K video right on the iPhone 13 Pro if you wanted, and that definitely shows you how powerful it is. And speaking about how powerful it is, I think Apple knows how powerful it is, and that's exactly why they kept around that A15 chip for the base model iPhone 14s. Now, you can look at it as two ways. One, Apple is cheap, or two, the A15 chip, which is on the iPhone 13 Pro, was ahead of its time. But my money is on Apple being a little bit cheap. Now, another thing that I do want to point out is that the A15 chip on the iPhone 13 Pro will still get a long support life. And that means that you're going to get software updates in the future, which is something that if you're planning to keep a phone for years down the road, that's a good thing. And again, if you think about it and compare it with the iPhone 14, just the base model iPhone 14, then what you're going to notice is that since they have the same chip, chip, then in theory, they should have the same amount of support life. We'll still get the same amount of software updates in theory. I do want to spend a hot second talking about the durability of the phone. And now, if you really look at the phone, it's a beautiful phone. It has a really nice finish, and it just generally looks like a phone that you do not want to drop. Well, I am a little bit of a klutz. I drop my phones all the time, and I gotta say that, yeah, I use it in a case, but this phone has still held up exceptionally well, and that means that I don't have any scratches or dings on the iPhone 13 Pro. And that is a really good thing, especially if you're trying to buy it on the used market. Durability is a big thing, and that means that chances are, unless the person is more clumsy than me, you're gonna be okay with getting a phone that still is in pretty good condition. And yeah, I can say that if you were somebody that went with the iPhone 13 Pro, you're not really gonna be missing out on any of the key features from any of the newer iPhones. Speaking of that though, a reason a lot of you may be asking the question if it's still worth it is because the iPhone 14 Pro came out. The iPhone 13 Pro was not my favorite phone when it came out. In fact, I sold it for my beloved iPhone 13 mini. But in 2022, Apple released the iPhone 14 Pro, and it made the 13 Pro that much better. Both phones feature essentially the same premium design, a 120Hz display, and both do not have USB-C, and both have pretty stellar cameras, although the camera is technically better on the iPhone 14 Pro. If you were to compare like the key differences, like what Apple really marketed on the iPhone 14 Pro, those things are not really game-changing features, and are features that I kind of think sucked after using them for as long as I have now. Between the two, the iPhone 14 Pro has very minute differences. Dynamic Island is not a place you'd like to vacation because it's pretty boring and does pretty much nothing useful. The display is brighter on the iPhone 14 Pro, but the 13 Pro is still bright in its own right, and the iPhone 14 Pro has the A16 chip, which is not that different from the A15 chip. Day to day, using the phone for what I use the phone for, emails, texting, phone calls, browsing through Instagram, any of those things do not feel any bit quicker on the iPhone 14 Pro compared to the iPhone 13 Pro. Now, another feature that the iPhone 14 Pro has that you're not going to get on the 13 Pro is the always on display. And can I be honest, I've turned that off since I first got the phone, and I have zero intentions of putting it back. I've just found that it's a little bit too distracting, and although it is a good feature to have, it's not really a feature to me. But if it's something that you do want, then yeah, you might want to go with the iPhone 14 Pro. Now, this next thing is something that I think that is a good enough reason for anybody to pick the iPhone 13 Pro over the 14 Pro, and that's the battery life. I don't know what it is. It really irked me that the iPhone 14 Pro has this horrible battery life. Case in point, in my regular day, I work from home constantly under Wi-Fi, unplug the iPhone at around like 8:15 a.m. and I have to charge around 6 to 7 p.m. But on the iPhone 14 Pro, there have been times, multiple times, where I've had to charge it at around 3 p.m. Which, yeah, it really does depend on how much you're using your phone, but I gotta say that I've never really had that problem with the 13 Pro. Finally, the conclusion of the video: is the iPhone 13 Pro still worth it in 2023? Well, there's a little bit of a pump fake. So if you watch this video so far, you're probably thinking that I'm singing the praises of the iPhone 13 Pro. And while there are downsides that I've already addressed in like other videos, I do want to say that this phone is a good phone. It's an amazing phone, but I'm still in love with the iPhone 13 mini, and I do recommend that to a lot of people, specifically if you're trying to get the most bang for your buck. Also, there are other phones like the OnePlus 11 that make the iPhone 13 Pro look old. However, if you are dead set on buying an iPhone and you think that the 13 mini is a little bit too small, then yeah, go for a used iPhone 13 Pro. I think that 99% of people looking for the Pro level iPhone should go for that phone over the iPhone 14 for the reasons mentioned in this video. Anyway, if you want to enter that giveaway, make sure to give the video a thumbs up, comment down below letting me know if you'd buy the iPhone 13 Pro in 2023 or go with any other option. Which option would you choose? Got some Samsung videos coming up. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.